Hi, my name is Mahmood. I'm a self-driving car engineer, and today I thought I'd try to do something a little bit different than the other videos on my channel, and I wanted to react to a video very recently put out by JJRicks. If you don't know JJRicks, he has a YouTube channel, JJRicks Studios, where he uploads his experiences riding the Waymo One vehicles out in Chandler, Arizona. This is the best way to experience a Waymo vehicle at the moment, other than actually being on the ground in Arizona, which isn't really possible due to COVID for a lot of people. And his website, JJRicks.com, might also be worth visiting as well, where you'll see a list with a timestamp for every sort of event that he's experienced while riding these Waymo vehicles. And this week, JJ's been able to add car runs away from roadside assistance to the list of events that have happened, which is something. And I thought it would be worth giving my perspective and reaction on what's happening in this video and what I think about it. It's a reaction video. What do you expect? So if you watched my last video, you'd know that I'm actually quite a big fan of Waymo. I really like the work that they do. I think the technology that they've got is quite good. And out of all the self-driving car companies in the world, Waymo is one of the most public-facing. They allow members of the public to ride their vehicles. Not everyone does that, and big props to them for that. But I don't really think that we should shy away from criticizing things that go wrong that shouldn't have gone wrong. If we as an industry want to get better, we want self-driving cars to be safer, we need to be able to learn from the mistakes that end up happening and ensuring that they don't happen again. And that's why I'm trying to make this video. Anyway, let's get started with JJ's video. This is Waymo's release on what happened in this situation and their explanation of it and what they're hoping to do better. I want to go through it now, and then we'll watch the video, react to that video, and then look at this announcement again and see whether or not this announcement makes sense. Let's go.
While driving fully autonomously through an extended work zone, the Waymo driver detected an unusual situation and requested the attention of a remote fleet response specialist to provide additional information.
Just to give a bit of background about what the Waymo driver is. So the Waymo driver is what Waymo call their autonomous system, both the hardware and the software components in it. It's sort of like an anthropomorphized driver, but the Waymo driver is a computer system or a robot, if you want to get technical about it. And the remote fleet response specialist is the person that JJ is talking to on the phone, who's providing support to him as things are going wrong.
During that interaction, the fleet response team provided incorrect guidance, which made it challenging for the Waymo driver to resume its intended route and required Waymo's roadside assistance team to complete the trip. While the situation was not ideal, the Waymo driver operated the vehicle safely until roadside assistance arrived.
So nothing happened.
Throughout, Waymo's team was in touch with the rider, who provided thoughtful and helpful feedback that allows us to continue learning and improving the Waymo driver. Our team has already assessed the event and improved our operational process.
Okay, so I have a few gripes with this already. It already seems really corporate, which, I mean, you'd expect, but it didn't really provide much information on what happened and how Waymo ended up changing the processes and how they learnt from what happened here. It's very non-committal, non-specific, and on a communication level, doesn't really give too much trust to someone who sees this. So we'll revisit this official statement after we've seen what happens, and you can judge whether or not you think it's an appropriate level of vagueness that they've presented here.
Abstract way of doing it. Oh, so how are we going to turn right when the right lane is closed off? What is the planner still wants to go in this lane?
JJ does a great job
I can't zoom out.
sort of explaining
Oh, did they finally block up
what's
the
going
buttons
on.
when there's a turn? Oh, no they didn't. Okay. Alright, I thought they saw me.
You can see a car come up behind as well.
I don't think it's going to take.
Oh, there's already one car behind. There's a second one now.
Take this turn. We might be stuck.
Okay, so it looks like there's cones in the way on the second lane. So as it's turning right, you can see the rightmost lane has a couple of cones in it. If we go to this view, You'll see 2 cones in here in the way. So they've blocked off this lane, but the vehicle sort of sees them as obstacles. They kind of do look like cones on the little display, so it might recognize them as blocking, but it's surprising that the Waymo driver would not just go around those. Since it's capable of avoiding obstacles that are in front, I'd expect it to try to go into the far lane. Even though it's not ideal, it'd be the sort of like second scenario which would be preferable to the first one which it can't execute. It's already a strange situation. You would have expected Waymo to maybe have trialed this sort of thing before. However, the thing that we need to focus on though is not that the vehicle failed. These vehicles are under a test and they're going to fail. They're going to run into edge cases. Some of them might seem really, really obvious, but it's really hard to account for all of those edge cases during initial testing. So what Waymo are hoping to achieve here in this public rollout is they're hoping to run into more of these edge cases so that they can program them into the system so that the vehicles don't end up in situations like this again in the future. The state of Arizona, before allowing the vehicles on the road, would have also expected these vehicles to fail in some situations. That's why the roadside assistance team is there. That's why the remote fleet operations people are there. They're all there because the operations team are meant to patch over any failings in the technical system, which are an expected part of the regular operation of a development vehicle, essentially, which this, while really good, still technically is.
Sorry.
So he got his first honk. He got, like, he has to, yeah. All right. Let's. I keep stopping, but there's so much stuff I want to say. But if the passenger inside the vehicle is put into a situation where they have to wave and signal to the vehicle behind them in order to go around them, that's not exactly ideal from a robo-taxi perspective. You don't, user experience perspective as well, you don't really want a passenger to have to signal manually. The system should take over itself. At this point, I don't even think it's got the hazard lights on. It sort of feels like it's just waiting for the cones to move out of the way, which probably isn't going to happen until the construction ends. But let's keep going. This is uncomfortable. Like I can't take a lot of just sort of this awkward, please go around me energy that JJ's emitting.
Go around, man. Is this oh no.
So that's expected.
Oh wow.
Okay, so roadside assistants are on their way. Let's pause. Roadside assistants are on their way. That's what the little screen here. The screen down here at the bottom is directly in front of JJ. I think it's embedded in the seat in front of him. They're on their way. However, the vehicle looks like it's still trying to go right. Like there's nothing really signaling that the vehicle is in a stopped state. Like there's no hazard lights that are being put on at the moment. It's all just, like it's just stuck there. And another vehicle rocking up behind it is going to expect this Waymo vehicle to go at some point. So the communication between this vehicle and the other vehicles on the road is already really lacking in this case. Absolutely not ideal.
Hello.
Hi, this is Waymo Rider Support.
Hey. I see there's some funky stuff going on here. Yeah.
Yes. It's Joel, so I just wanted to touch base with you really quickly. So
Sure.
it looks like your car has paused. We are going to be sending our Waymo Roadside Assistance.
They're really nice on the
Roadside
phone.
Assistance is going to be on their way. They're going to be arriving in the yellow vest.
Okay.
You're going to find more information about them on the rider's screen.
Okay.
Please remain seated with your car doors with your seatbelt on.
Another thing that strikes me here is that Joel is like, all right, so Joel is on plenty of these rides. This is literally his 54th ride. Like we can see at the top here, ride with Waymo number 54. This is the 54th one he has filmed and uploaded. We can safely say he's ridden more than 54 times. So the fleet management, the call center should at least know who he is. Like JJ walks into a Waymo One vehicle and he should be all like, do you know who I am? Do you even know? I am the JJRicks Studios. I host the #1 ride-along Waymo video channel on YouTube. I don't know, this is maybe just me nitpicking a little bit, but even though they called him, said, hi, Joel, and then they said, look, roadside assistants are going to show up. They're wearing high-vis vests. Joel would know that. He's already been through that before. And when I'm speaking to a call center and they give me the sort of introductory information that I've been through before many, many, many times, it just feels like you're stuck at sort of level 1 of this big chain sort of flowchart thing. And doesn't feel great. I feel like they should at least have some notes that it might not always be the same person talking to him on the phone, which is fine, but if they could pull up sort of the history of the rides that Joel has been on, whether he's had experience getting a roadside assistance team member coming around, and that sort of thing would really help them sort of shift the type of messaging that they give the rider so that it's more appropriate. If it's someone's first, second, or third time getting roadside assistance called on them, you should maybe treat them differently to someone who's doing it for the 7th or 8th time. Eventually you get sick of being told that people with yellow vests are arriving and just let them know that, yeah. It's a small thing, but it got to me a little bit, but let's keep going.
Bounce it in case it gets moving, in case the car starts moving again.
Okay.
But when I'm going to stand in line with you until roadside assistance arrives.
Sounds good.
It's just ticked up to 7 minutes.
Yeah. See what the problem is. Yeah, that's
So they're en route. It looks like there's 6 minutes. The driver's name is going to be
7 minutes.
and you will see that the front doors will open up. So the autonomous specialist door is going to be opening up, so that way you can go ahead and jump in.
okay.
Complete that ride in manual. All right.
Absolutely.
It's really a bit weird to me that like you'd let a vehicle block traffic like this for like 7 minutes until the roadside assistance shows up. And I know this opens up all sorts of liability questions, but maybe if there was a way to explore whether or not if the passenger, like Joel, for example, in this case, has a driver's license and a clean record, whether he'd be able to drive the vehicle in this case, since it's a little bit of a dangerous situation, and at least drive it to a nearby car park or pull over somewhere relatively safe, or even to his destination, and that way you don't always need to wait for roadside assistance. Roadside assistants don't have a monopoly on being able to drive. This is a regular vehicle. Joel should be able to drive this, but I don't know what it is from a liability perspective, so I'm not gonna push this point too much. Probably going to cut out parts where there's a lot of waiting.
Oh. It's
Oh, okay.
Okay.
So the
There we go.
vehicle just sort of fixed itself.
Looks like it is on its way.
Oh, supposed to do that.
Oh no, it's
Oh, no.
okay. Oh, okay. This is so bad. It's so bad. So instead of blocking the entrance from an intersection on the right hand side, it's now blocking traffic. So it's like straddling 2 lanes. It's sitting right in the middle of them and potentially blocking a construction site. The cones are seen as an obstacle, and roadside assistance is still on the way. It's kind of very weird to me that the remote fleet management team weren't able to issue a stay still and wait for the roadside assistance sort of instruction. That the vehicle is just, the Waymo driver is just constantly trying to get out of the situation as the roadside assistance team is on their way. I think once you call the roadside assistance team, at least from my perspective, you should call that mission a fail. Like, you've reached a situation that is uncertain, you haven't quite accounted for it, and you need to look into it more from an R&D sort of perspective. Let's cut it short right now. We don't know what might be going wrong, and let the roadside assistance team take this person manually, download all the data a little bit later, and then deal with that in a technical way so that these vehicles don't do this again in the future. But to have the vehicle constantly try to right itself just seems, it's like a little bit sus. It's like, you don't know why the vehicle disengaged the first time. It could be something in the logic that it's trying to follow that Waymo just hasn't accounted for, or there could be something sort of acting a little bit haywire on the vehicle. You don't know why that happened. You got to a part where you had to call roadside assistance. I think if you ever cross that threshold, the vehicle should not be able to move again, even if the situation becomes clear again for it. It just seems way too risky. And this whole video, I think, would have been avoided if that was the case. But all right, let's let's keep going.
I think it was supposed to do that. Oh no.
This is so bad.
Actually, did it pause again? It looks like it did.
Oh, now it's blocking the entire road.
This looks like a main road as well.
Okay.
Oh.
That's, yeah.
Let me see if I can get our team to hold that vehicle. Hold on a second.
So it.
Now it's blocking.
So the person on the I just love how it said before, like, your car is good to go over here, but it sounds like the roadside assistance is trying to stop the vehicle now. So the thing that they should have, I think, done before, it sounds like she's trying to do now from what she's saying. But again, they're being a bit opaque. Like, they're not telling him, look, I've issued an instruction to stop the vehicle and a roadside assistance team will be on their way. It's just roadside assistance is on their way. Oh, the vehicle started moving. Now it's stuck in the middle. I'll try to stop the vehicle. It doesn't feel as communicative as it should be to someone on the vehicle.
Wait,
It should be able to clear it. Like, you can see that it could go around that cone, but it just doesn't. Those vehicles are having to cross the center line in order to, like, go past. That's not ideal at all.
So it looks like we're going to see. So it was a minute.
But it's also kind of amazing how few honks he's getting. Like, the citizens of Chandler and, like, the drivers of Chandler are really used to these Waymo vehicles. It'd be interesting to see or hear from people who don't drive these vehicles, the people who have to drive around them, and how used to they are to these vehicles failing on the road when they do. Because it seems like a lot of people are going around without any fuss. And if this was a human driver, I could imagine almost every second or third car honking as they go by. But I think we've only heard one honk so far. But it's yeah, it seems like there's been a bit of a culture shift for the drivers of Chandler.
So Joel, I don't even have a roadside assistance assigned as of right now.
Okay.
Because the car was no longer stranded, but now it does look like it's stranded again.
Right.
Oh yeah, that's the thing. Like, they said, like, it was stranded, then it's no longer stranded, and now it's stranded again. Just stop it once it gets to the first stranding, cancel the mission, and get roadside assistance there. The stop-start is just, it's rough, man. It's rough. I won't be able to just display every second of this. Like, there's nothing that's going to show you how painfully long Joel is sitting there for. Like, you need to go to his channel and watch it in real time rather than the sort of skipped up version that I'm watching to really see the effect of what this feels like, because it's brutal.
Do you know, is there one currently always assigned to follow or just trail from a distance every fully autonomous vehicle, or are they just kind of hanging around? If you can say that, I don't know if you can.
So that actually they're not assigned per vehicle. They are going to be in the area. So there may be 2 or 3 vehicles. We don't know how many vehicles in the area. So they will be in a centralized area.
Okay.
Where some of those vehicles will be. So they're usually between 2 and 5 miles out.
Okay.
Between that area.
Gotcha. So that's a little different than it used to be, I think. Okay. Cool.
It never was assigned 1-to-1.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, I completely agree with Joel here. Like, the vehicles, it seems strange to say that they were never assigned 1-to-1. They would have, at one point, they would have had a safety driver in each vehicle, and they for a fact did. Safety drivers were there with their hands hovering over the wheels to be able to take over. As time has gone on, the control of that driver has gone on less and less and less, to the point where they were just sitting there. And then they were removed from some of the vehicles and put into these roadside assistance teams. It would seem very odd to not have at any stage to have had a 1-to-1 shadow vehicle for every Waymo vehicle out there without a driver on board. It's strange that you'd go from having people inside the vehicle making sure that nothing goes wrong to those people outside the vehicles and having to look over 3 or 4 vehicles at the same time. It's really opaque, and it feels like they're not saying all the things that they need to say if they want to be like a little bit open and maybe get a little bit more trust from people. Either answer the question honestly and truthfully and say something like, oh, we haven't had that since the development phase. But to say we've never had them be 1-to-1 following, that's like, especially to someone so experienced riding these vehicles, it just feels, I don't know. I don't like it. It rubs me the wrong way.
Signed 1-to-1.
Oh. Gotcha. Okay, so
Oh, so
out.
It now reverses, it backs out, and it just oh, this is even worse. So now it's like completely blocking that left lane.
So it's out.
And now it's blocking the whole
But
lane instead of half of it.
Also, it's cancelled the remote assistance team. So this thing down here isn't saying that remote assistants are on their way. It's saying that the vehicle is still going.
They'll fix it. Okay. Yeah. Sorry about that.
You can't
Again,
do it, no way?
They will in a second. Yeah. Somebody's gonna.
We will in a second.
yeah, again, like, to put the passenger in a position where they need to communicate to the city crew what's going wrong is weird. If they're already part of the control or like response system in this communicative sense, maybe they can just be included in terms of a backup emergency driver if things are going this horribly. If Waymo just allowed Joel to drive this vehicle to safety, a lot of this could have been avoided.
So the city of Chandler?
Metro somebody.
Oh, and now it's... Oh, that was...
Oh man. Okay.
Oh, or... Okay, that was... So that was a bit of a failing as well. So a vehicle crossing over a double yellow, and the Waymo driver thought it was safe to go. That's already a little bit risky, but then it immediately stopped after it started. Oh, it's messy. Like, it's not a good maneuver. But the vehicle's now fixed itself, supposedly, and now it's moving ahead. But the speed at which it pulled out doesn't look too comfy. Like, it doesn't look like a really nice, smooth ride. It looks jerky and a little bit uncomfortable and kind of scary. I'm not sure quite how Joel felt while on board. Maybe his elation for like how special this video is was sort of like eclipsing how nervous he was being in this vehicle.
Fixed itself. What do you know? Okay.
This fixed itself attitude is like I get it from Joel. Like he's pretty happy because the vehicle is now going ahead. But I think there's nothing scarier to a computer programmer or like someone involved in that technical side of things to have something not work and then work again, and you don't know why it didn't work in the first time, and then you don't know why it started to work again. That is a scary situation because that not working can strike again at any moment. And when you've got a safety critical system like a vehicle, it becomes even more bad because the worst case is that someone might end up getting seriously hurt if your system behaves in a way that you didn't intend it to. So you need to really be careful of those we don't know why it's not working, but even more the we don't know why it's working. That's a scary place to be in. Even though it might sound positive, it's definitely not a positive. We don't know why it's not working is a much better place to be from a safety perspective than we don't know why it is working. Ugh. So it looks like things are back to normal, but the roadside, see again, the roadside assistance team thing, like it's still saying that roadside assistance is arriving, but the vehicle is moving. Like those are two conflicting messages. Like if the roadside assistance team is arriving and that's what we're being told, then how are they going to get into or stop a moving vehicle? Are they going to do like this Jean-Claude Van Damme doing the splits between two trucks going by? Like it just seems, yeah, it's conflicting, and it feels like things aren't working the way that they should be working here.
Want me to stay on the line with you and make sure?
Yeah, maybe a little bit. It really does not like these codes.
Not a problem.
Yeah.
Same thing. Oh, look at that. Look at that map. Look at that map down here on the right. So it had sort of this clearance to keep going on this lane, but it wanted to sort of get into this lane halfway. It wanted to knock over both of these cones and then come back into the lane and cross back into it's a really weird technical blip. And those will happen. Like those are expected. Things aren't always going to go perfectly from a technical sense. The reason these Waymo vehicles are out on the road is so that they can highlight things like this that happen in their software. But to run into the same issue 2 times or 3 times, 4 times. It was the first when the vehicle's trying to turn right, and then once it turned right, it got stopped over the halfway line, and then the 3rd time was when it backed out and then blocked that left lane, and then the 4th time is now. So the same thing is happening over and over and over again, and it's like you should have stopped it the first time, maybe the 2nd time, but definitely 3rd time. But by the 4th time, it's like a repeated failure.
Yeah, so on the planner route, I don't know if you can see.
So now it's like blocking. It's a similar place, but it's blocking people turning right from this light. Oh, they've turned the hazard lights on as well, I guess.
The planner, but it wants to go halfway between lanes.
I have to say though, I really like this sort of LiDAR map that sort of pulsates out from the Waymo vehicle. I think that's really cool.
Yay!
Okay.
Cool.
Roadside assistance is there.
Here it comes. All right.
Okay, so it's good. Roadside assistance arrived. We should be able to get Joel to his destination manually and safely.
So now they're going to be exit the vehicle and entering the autonomous specialist side.
Okay.
Door to complete your trip in manual.
Gotcha.
Uh-oh.
You better hurry up and escape.
This is just the vehicle runs away. This is real. This is.
Yeah.
Now it's just.
A little bit, and then
It just stops and starts. It's. Like, it is it is it is nuts to me that the remote assistance team and the roadside assistance team, neither of them could send a stop mission command to the vehicle. Like, they're sort of like at the mercy of the vehicle's will of when it decides to get out of a situation. This is it's weird. Like, you should be able to just stop it. Like, don't keep trying. All right, you've disengaged 3, 4, 5. I don't know how many times now you've done things that you shouldn't have done. Waymo driver, maybe you call it a night, you call it a day today, and we just check out the data and try to make you better for tomorrow. But don't keep trying to fix the situation. It's unsalvageable. Just end it right there. I mean, Joel was filming this for his YouTube channel, so he'd want to highlight strange things that happen on a journey. But if this was a regular person, and sorry, Joel, I'm not trying to call you a non-regular person, but if this was a regular person that wanted a smooth journey and experience, Waymo are really not delivering that at the moment. And I'm not even talking from like a failure sense. You can fail. You can still fail gracefully. You should just stop and say, look, we've run into a disengagement. Roadside assistance will be on their way. And then you complete that journey manually. It's a little bit inconvenient, but people know what they're signing up for when they get into a Waymo vehicle. But to have it be constantly starting and stopping, and now literally a chase is happening. The vehicle has escaped from the roadside assistance team. Like, it's unsafe. Like, I'm laughing because it's a bit ridiculous, but it's quite unsafe. Like, it's quite unsafe. It shouldn't be happening.
Yeah. Okay.
Like, it's still trying to move forward while the vehicle is literally, you can see the roadside assistance is behind him right here. Now the other cars might block it from going forward. But as soon as that light turns green, that vehicle's going to try to get out of it. All right, the driver's come out. I guess he did come out from the right-hand side.
Hello. Good afternoon. My name is. I'm with the Waymo.
Finally gets in.
I'm gonna try and get you out of this situation as safely as we possibly can.
All right, Joel had to provide his own voiceover because he wanted to protect the identity of the person there. So full respect to Joel and how he's managed to do that. And I guess he wasted all his budget on the voiceover artistry with that first announcement guy. At this point, they drive home. They drive Joel to his destination safely. So there's not too much more to see over here. But it's not exactly a smooth journey in that case. So what we saw was that the vehicle went up to a T intersection. It was trying to turn right, and it didn't do that. Some cones were in the way. Technically, it should have been able to sort of go into a second choice style of scenario where rather than turning immediately into the right lane, it would turn into the second lane, the one on the left. But it couldn't do that. That's fine. Technically, things are going to go wrong, and I don't think we should judge too harshly on that technical side of stuff. Even if the stuff looks like it's relatively easy and should have been encountered in testing, put that aside for now. We know that these development vehicles are going to fail at some point regardless. The question is, when they do fail, and it's when they do fail, not if, when they do fail, how do we handle that situation? Right from the get-go, from the first one, from the first time it called roadside assistance, from the first time that Joel was on the phone with the fleet management people, the vehicle's mission should have been cancelled then and there. He only got the screenshot here, like at this point. Our roadside assistance team is here and all of that. Like, that should have been right from the get-go. Like, you cancel the trip right then and there. You don't try to keep it going. It's something that really shouldn't have happened. The first stop, Okay, but then the second time, the third time, the fourth time, the fifth time that the vehicle had to stop again and call up roadside assistance, that's too many times. And teleoperation is one thing that people would talk about. So teleoperation would be remote control of a vehicle, but that also is quite dangerous because relying on a wireless connection to control the steering angle and the throttle speed of a vehicle is quite dangerous because a wireless connection could be cut at any time. And I can see why they wouldn't do that. That's totally fine. But maybe in that case, they could ask some of their riders that have clean driving records to be able to take over the driving task rather than having to wait for the roadside assistance team if the roadside assistance isn't really coming fast enough. For these vehicles, it's the operational team that are sort of the last, they're the last bastion. They're the last people standing that should prevent bad stuff from happening. And in this case, they didn't really do that. And I'm not blaming the individual two people here that were talking to Joel. It's more the processes that have been put in place that allowed the situation to get to the point that it has. But let's have a look at that announcement from Waymo right at the beginning, their official statement. Let's look at that again with what we've just seen and see how it feels, right?
While driving fully autonomously through an extended work zone, the Waymo driver detected an unusual situation and requested the attention of a remote fleet response specialist to provide additional information. During that interaction, the fleet response team provided incorrect guidance, which made it challenging for the Waymo driver to resume its intended route.
Okay, so maybe what they're saying here, again, they're being very, very vague over what's happening. But maybe the fleet response team should have said something like, turn into the left lane, but instead it said, keep trying to turn into the right lane. This is an obstacle that will get out of your way soon, but it's a cone and cones are inanimate and don't really move unless city workers come by and remove them, which also happened. So it's a lot of odd situations. But again, this provided incorrect guidance, it's too vague. Like, what was the incorrect guidance?
And required Waymo's roadside assistance team to complete the trip.
Yes, but they called the roadside assistance team and cancelled the roadside assistance team like 3 different times during that whole ordeal.
While the situation was not ideal, the Waymo driver operated the vehicle safely until roadside assistance arrived.
No, absolutely not. The driver did not operate the vehicle safely. Safely is what you do when you're sitting in a driving exam. If you pulled what the Waymo driver did in the middle of a driving exam, you would not be getting your license. It's disingenuous. Like, I don't buy it. I don't buy it. I don't think anyone should. It's not a really good thing to put in this statement. I get why they're saying it, but I wouldn't say that was safely. Safely doesn't mean you didn't get into a crash. You can operate the vehicle unsafely and still not get into an accident. This wasn't safe by any stretch.
Throughout, Waymo's team was in touch with the rider, who provided thoughtful and helpful feedback that allows us to continue learning and improving the Waymo driver.
Joel, you should put that on your CV. Like, according to Waymo, he's like thoughtful and helpful. Like, put that as a quote. But yeah, again, he was helpful and thoughtful. He was telling people to go around. He was talking to the city works and construction people. He shouldn't have had to, but maybe they could have made the most of his thoughtful and helpfulness by allowing him to drive the vehicle rather than wait for these roadside assistance people.
Our team has already assessed the event and improved our operational process.
It's okay, like, already assess the event and improve the operation. It's so corporate speak, like it's making me a little bit ill. Like, what did you do? What did you do? what did you assess the event and how have you improved your operational process? You can't just say we've improved our operational process or it won't happen again. What were the things that went wrong and how are you avoiding making those same mistakes again? It's really, really vague. And I think when especially we've got self-driving cars out on the road and there's people who don't necessarily trust them or like them, having clear communication that evokes feelings of trust, where you say, this is the scope of what we're doing. Here are the things that are going well. Here are the things that are not going so well. And when things don't go so well, these are the steps we're taking in order to ensure that when things don't go well, they're still operated in as safe a way as possible. That goes a long way when you're trying to evoke feelings of trust and have people come along with you on that learning journey of achieving level 5 autonomous vehicles. But to sort of wash, I'm not sure what's like safe wash. What is it like? What would it be like? High-vis wash the situation and say that it's still operated safely. We've assessed the event and we've improved our operational process. No, it didn't operate safely. And we need to know what you've assessed about the event and how you've improved your operational process. It's just like Waymo, I love the stuff that you do, the information that you open up to everyone, but this is the opposite of the transparency and the openness and collaboration that people have come to expect from you guys. And as leaders of the industry that I belong to, and as pioneers of the technology, you should be really leading the charge in the trust forming part of that equation. And that human element is super important when it comes to self-driving vehicles. It's not just about building cool technology. If you don't build cool technology that serves people, then you've just built some cool stuff that no one will care about. But that serving people side involves communication and trust. When you're not straight up about what's happening with people, then you'll end up losing a lot of that trust. And there's only so much of it that can go around. And if you're not careful and these sorts of things happen too often, you might find yourself in trouble. Anyway, thank you so much for watching. Thank you especially to Joel, thank you so much for providing this sort of video. This is really, really invaluable stuff. Yes, it's a little bit embarrassing for Waymo and it's not the best look. And I really think that they should be handling things differently, and there's still space for them to handle the situation better. It's not the end of it. They can still respond. But it's really nice to be able to have this sort of resource, this sort of auditing of what's happening in the industry, especially in these things that are public facing. And to have it be done in a respectful way, like Joel is doing it, I think is really cool. I think Waymo is super lucky to have someone like Joel working alongside them, not alongside them, but like interested in the stuff that they're doing and reporting on it the way that he is. Anyway, this is, I've taken so much time with this video. Let's end it for now. Let me know if this sort of video is interesting and whether there's other stuff that you'd like me to react to and say what my opinion is about it. This is just me trying something new. Thank you so much for watching. Subscribe if you like it, and check out Joel's YouTube channel as well. I've put a link to it in the description below. Thank you so much. Stay safe.